Welcome to the Explainer. Let's just jump right in. Every great team needs a solid playbook, right? So today, we're walking through the exact procedures that will make our classroom focused, respectful, and above all, safe for everybody. Let's get to it. To make sense of everything, we've broken our classroom culture down into 4 key pillars: respecting space and others, managing technology and gear, integrity in your work, and finally, emergency protocols.
Starting off with pillar number 1, respecting space and others.
Instead of wandering around freely like you're navigating a crowded city street, classroom movement actually requires a bit of structure. You really got to stay in your assigned seat. If you absolutely need to get up for any reason, simply raise your hand and wait for permission. It's super simple, but it keeps the room orderly and keeps distractions to a minimum for everyone else who's trying to learn. That exact same respectful boundary applies to something as common as sharpening your pencil. Instead of just jumping up and grinding away right in the middle of a crucial lesson, just hold your pencil up in the air, patiently wait for the teacher to give you the nod. Honestly, it's a tiny gesture, but it absolutely saves our collective focus. And speaking of boundaries, the teacher's desk? That is completely off limits. You can't remove or touch items on the desk, and you definitely shouldn't go behind it without explicit permission. Just think of it as a professional workspace that requires mutual respect. Now, what happens if things get a bit heated, or maybe a slip of the tongue happens? Well, if a student uses inappropriate language and the teacher calls out language, you need to immediately apologize and reword your statement. It's really all about self-correction here. But be warned, if you continually use inappropriate language, you won't just get a verbal warning. That's going to lead to actual disciplinary consequences. Take a look at how specific our limits are on talking. We are here to learn, so talking is really reserved for very specific times, like when you're actively asking or answering a question, or during designated group work. If you miss something, don't just turn to your neighbor. Instead, raise your hand and ask the teacher directly. So, moving beyond personal space and voice levels, how exactly do we handle the modern distractions we bring into the room every single day? That brings us to Section 2, managing technology and gear. Let's talk about the gear we wear. Students have to keep their hoodies down at all times in the classroom. So, the absolute crucial point here is this. If you're using a hoodie to secretly hide your earbuds, well, that's a double violation. In that case, both the earbuds and the hoodie need to come off and go straight into your book bag. No exceptions. I absolutely love this professional concept right here, the half-mast protocol. When you're collaborating in a group and a classmate or the teacher starts speaking, you've got to pull your laptop screen halfway down. Or, depending on the teacher's instructions, close the lid entirely. This guarantees active listening, stops off-task browsing in its tracks, and creates a highly equitable environment where no one is stuck doing all the heavy lifting while others are zoned out on their screens. All right, now that our tech is managed and we are completely focused, how do we handle the actual academic work fairly and honestly? This leads us right into Section 3, integrity in your work. The rule here is so simple, yet you'd be surprised how many students miss it. Label your work. If you turn in an assignment without a name, it automatically loses 5 points before it's even graded. Or worse, it could get thrown straight into the trash. The recycling bin doesn't need a GPA, folks, so always, always write your name. During assessments, the expectation is total focus. When a quiz or test is out, keep your wandering eyes firmly on your own paper and refrain from talking entirely. Doing otherwise isn't just frowned upon, it is straight up considered cheating. And the result? A 0 for the assessment and further disciplinary action. Just not worth it. Integrity also deeply applies when the regular teacher isn't around. So when Mr. Hendrix is away and a substitute teacher is in, the standard absolutely does not drop. You must sit in your assigned seat and quietly complete the assigned work. And yes, it will be collected for an actual grade, with no makeups allowed for lost work. You only talk if group work is assigned. Also, any behavioral issues or names left by the sub, those will be waiting for Mr. Hendrix the second he gets back, and consequences will strictly follow. Okay, we've covered daily respect, technology, and academic integrity. But let's shift gears to our most serious topic. What happens in an actual emergency? And that brings us to our final section, emergency and safety protocols. If a lockdown is ever announced, immediate physical action is required. First, students will move the counters along the door side of the classroom to create a solid barrier. Second, the lights must be turned off instantly. And third, the window and the door has to be completely blocked. These are the rapid physical steps we absolutely must take to secure the room safely. Once the room is physically secured, your behavior is the most critical factor. You have to sit quietly on the floor and remain completely silent. 0 electronic devices are allowed, period. Furthermore, you must ignore all overhead announcements and fire alarms, unless the teacher specifically tells you otherwise. In these situations, stillness and silence are literally what save lives.
Finally, you must remain on the floor until the lockdown is officially over, and that only happens when administration or law enforcement physically releases the classroom. If directed by the police, you will follow all their instructions exactly to the letter. This includes leaving the classroom with your arms raised high in the air, and you will keep them there until you are explicitly told you can put them down.
We have covered a lot of vital ground today, but by understanding the why behind these 4 pillars, respect, technology management, integrity, and safety, you are perfectly equipped to thrive in this environment. This isn't just a basic list of rules, it is the absolute blueprint for an incredible learning culture. So the question I want to leave you with is this: what step will you take today to make our classroom amazing?